Hi everyone, this video is going to be all about the common fingerpicking mistakes I see time and time again and how you can fix them. By the end of this video, you'll be able to play versatile picking patterns like the first few ideas will help you to set your hand correctly, and then stick around to the end because point 4 is a big mistake that people make time and time again, and the last 2 points even experienced players get wrong. First of all, you need a neutral hand. So when your hand is relaxed, it kind of does this. You've got a slight curve in the fingers. You don't do this that requires tension in the flexor muscles, and you don't do that which requires tension in the extensor muscles. So have your hand floppy. You don't want too big a bend that way, and you certainly don't want to bend that way. So my hand kind of flops over the guitar like this. In fact, I can use this part of the guitar to my advantage. I kind of rest my upper arm on it and my hand just flops in the right place like that. By the way, you'll notice that classical players have the hand elevated, whereas electric guitarists, when they're using a pick, have the hand down. Acoustic guitarists, we kind of do a combination of both things. Fingers, pick, sometimes percussive slapping, sometimes muting. So it's okay to have your hand down. If you're playing something that's quite technical, with lots of fingers, try raising your hand slightly. You might find it gives you a more neutral stance. Now, if you're an acoustic guitar player, you can get away with having short nails. If you're a classical musician, you might want to have long nails because they give you more of an attack on the notes. I find on acoustic guitar, if you've got long nails, they've got to be perfectly pristine, otherwise they get ripped to shreds on the strings. There's 2 main techniques, by the way, you can use when your hand is in the right position. You can use rest stroke, where you play a note and then rest on the next string like that. That's more common to classical guitar. Most of the time, as acoustic players, we'll just be doing free stroke, where we, in fact, classical guitarists do that most of the time anyway, where we hit a string and we miss the one next to it. You need a neutral thumb. In other words, your thumb is kind of relaxed like this. We don't want this kind of motion here. That ends up using too much nail on the string and kind of sounds scratchy like this. So my thumb is quite relaxed, and I'm using this joint here, the upper knuckle, okay? Not this one here. This next thing is a big mistake I see everyone doing. Their thumb is in the way of their fingers. So if I'm playing, say, the bottom E string here, when I play that string, what I don't want to do is find that, oh, my finger's in the way. Now, some people make the mistake of pulling the thumb back behind the fingers and going inside them. That's not a good idea. That's like trying to punch with your thumb on the inside. It's just not natural. So what you should do is your thumb should be ahead of your fingers. What you don't want to do is have your thumb so far forward that you end up with a strange looking bend in your wrist here. That's unnatural. Remember, we want that neutral stance. So what we do is we come in from this angle roughly, not like this because then my thumb's really in the way of my fingers. So I come in from an angle and pull my thumb slightly further forward. In fact, my thumb's kind of near the front of the sound hole, my fingers are near the back. That way when I play a note with my thumb, it kind of crosses over the fingers a little bit like that. It's okay that it hits them there, but we don't want the pad of the thumb to hit the fingers and be in the way. And likewise, I don't want my fingers to come this way and find my thumbs in the way. Rule number 4, this is a big one that everyone seems to make. They kind of pull the fingers away like this. That is not a natural motion, and it doesn't sound too good. It kind of pulls the sound away from the sound hole. What we want to do is this kind of fist clenching motion where most of the effort comes from these knuckles. It's okay to have some movement in the lower knuckle, but what we don't want is we don't want a movement of the wrist like that, and also we don't want the knuckle to pull upwards like this, like we're getting under the string and pulling up like that. That's not natural. I want to just kind of do this motion here. So I'm using mostly this. It's okay to use a little bit of this knuckle as well. Another mistake people make is they're not using all of their fingers, or if they are, they're using the wrong ones. Generally, but not always, the thumb takes care of the lower notes and the fingers take care of the higher ones. There are exceptions, of course. Now, we'll do a little exercise here to try and train the thumb to take care of the bass notes. Basically, play the 4 thinnest strings like this. The thumb is going to sit on this D string. My index finger on the G, middle finger on the B, and my third finger on the top E. By the way, these are labelled P, I, M, and A. We don't tend to use pinky much. So I'm going to go thumb on the D, then index finger on the G, middle finger on the B, third finger on the top E. Notice I don't pull away like this. I go, and my hand stays pretty much where it started. And come back. We can add a D chord. That should sound familiar. To extend this further, let's do another exercise where the thumb does a little bit more. We're now going to play 3 strings in a row with the thumb, maybe even holding an E minor chord with this hand. 3 notes in a row, 1, 2, 3. My fingers, which are already sitting on their strings, then take over. So I get, with practice, you should be able to roll across the strings like that. Another mistake people make is they have a picking pattern which is inconsistent. It's okay to modify a picking pattern, but the underlying theme should be the same, especially the bass line. Have a listen to this. I'm going to take a chord of C and repeat a pattern with this hand. Okay, what I'm doing there is my thumb's going, I'm just holding a C and I'm going A string, D string, A, and that never changes, even if I modify what the other fingers are doing. So here's the main pattern. This is one that was used by Paul Simon an awful lot. And it goes like this. You grab your chord of C and you go thumb on the A string, middle finger on the B string, thumb on the D, index finger on the G. So you've got thumb, middle on the B, thumb on the D, index on the G. Or P, M, P, I. Now eventually you'll get used to that, and what you can do is you can make the bass line more interesting by doing this. So what I'm doing is I'm replacing my A string note with an E string note here, and this hand's doing the same. It's going from the A string to the E string. If that's too much to think about, just hold a 4-note C chord like this, and that's the left hand sorted. And over here we go A string, B, D string, G string, and then do the same again, but using this note, the E string, B string as always, D string as always, G string as always. So that's A string, B, D string, G, E string, B, D string, G string. Listen carefully, you'll hear my bass line going. And it never stops. Let's take our pattern and now we're going to apply it to other chords. Let's say we've got an A minor. A minor has a root note on the A string, just like C, so we do exactly the same pattern. And we can alternate the bass line. But what if we have an E minor chord where the root's on the E string? That's fine, just start on the E string. Same with the G chord, start with the E string. What about a D chord? If you want to play a D chord, shift everything that way. So I've got the D string, middle finger on the top E, thumb on the G, index finger on the B. So I've got thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index. I can alternate the bass line. Just make sure everything else is the same. Let's go back to our C chord. What we can do now is we can start to modify this. I'm going to take the second note out. I'm not going to bother alternating the bass though, I'll keep it simple. Or just take out the first note of the whole bar. I can actually play the original pattern and put the first and second notes together like this with a pause after. Or with the alternating bass. And then we can mix and match chords and have things like C. I'm mixing the pattern up, A minor, lazy G, F, C, G, C. That sounded a bit like The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. Once you get really happy with these picking patterns, you can literally keep the bass moving and do things with the other strings. You can interrupt the pattern and add melody lines. You know, you can have things like and so on. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. I hope that was useful to you. If so, please click like and subscribe. You'd be helping me out a great deal. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.